Hello, dear friends, my lovely audiences, my dear fellow Californians. Welcome to the East West Show. Jack Chow on the East West Show with G&E TV. It's a special day, it's a special moment that I and my team are especially honored by a wonderful human being who is ready to take care of California. California is so big, to take care of California, you need a big man. We want to find out how big this man is, where does he come from, how much he knows, and what can he do, what can he not do, stuff like that. Right? Now we're talking about Mr. Cole Harris, Coleharris, running for Lieutenant Governor for California, an important position, I would say a supremely important position for California. If you really want to turn California around, though, you better be careful about this man because this man knows how to play with money. When I use the word play, though, I really talk about high tech, right? So, with that as a lead line, sir, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Appreciate you.
Very good. My pleasure. To start with the whole show, though, normally talking about campaign election, we're always talking about who you are, where you're from,
Sure.
what have you done,
Sure.
what do you think you can do, something like that thing.
Sure.
We want to start with a little
background?
Background
Okay.
introduction, please.
Sure. So I was born and raised in California. I was born in Downey, and I grew up in Palmdale, Lancaster area, Antelope Valley, Quartz Hill to be exact. My father.
You're homegrown.
Yeah, I'm homegrown. My father was an electrical engineer. My grandfather was a longshoreman. He worked on the docks. I still have two uncles that are longshoremen that work on the docks. So we're California to the bone. My family goes back in California back to before the land grants. So my mother.
The land rush.
Yeah, well, on my mother's side, so my mother's father, which is my grandfather, his mom, all her family are from Mexico and more specifically Spanish. So they have Spanish roots from Spain. So that's why I say my family on that side goes back to since before the land grant. So I'm California to the bone on that.
And to yourself, though, you married a Chinese woman.
Yes, I married a
For
Chinese
18
girl.
years.
Yes, we've been together close to 19 years now.
I see.
You have to get that right, or otherwise the wife
she
won't
will
be
not
happy.
be happy, right?
She won't be happy with you
Yeah,
if you stay.
what is absent over the 2 years? Right?
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yes. Yeah.
And by the way, you speak perfect Chinese.
我都说中文。
说中文。
我的太太，我岳母岳父都是住在我们家里在一块儿，应该算快17年在一块儿。
We have a way to say that. We say 华人的女婿.
Yes,
Right?
yes, we do.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
So that makes a good point, though. Not only because we're Chinese Americans, we like that, because being related with the Chinese American community might provide you a different, I would say,
Perspective.
section or perspective or a special wisdom, something to combine with whatever he already has. Right?
Yes.
What do you do for business?
So when I was 14 years old, I took the responsibility of being responsible for your own circumstance. So as a Republican, this is the number one criteria of our ideology. So, which is you take responsibility for your own circumstance. It means you pull your sleeves up and you go to work. So at 14 years old, I started mowing lawns in the area, in my neighborhood. And by the time I was 17 years old, I had 30 guys working for me, and I had 300 homes that we were doing. So I saved some money then, and then I went off to college. And while I was in college, I formed the business that I have now. I founded it, and the name of the company is Capital Stone Holdings. And I slowly but surely started very, very small import-export deals in the beginning, and then gradually transforming it into a larger global firm with strategic partners all over the world. So we do a bit of everything. We do real estate development. We invest in people. Number one, first and foremost, I invest in people. But we invest in information service technology, software, food service business, buying and selling of companies that are underperforming businesses, or mergers and acquisitions. So we do quite a bit of stuff across the board.
I see. Thank you very much. Thank you for letting me know that much. My audience will like that. All together will indicate that you're a man of a healthy family tree, and you're a man who started early. You're a man who knows how to arrange, how to use money, how to allocate, how to develop. And my first question exactly is in the fact of the economic development. California has been hungry for too long. I've been in California for 36 years. For all these 36 years, I would say at least 20 years we're in a very hunger state, right? By that I mean we had limited money always, and the money is always short, and we always try to make it. We're patching.
Sure.
Like for 20-something years, we're only patching.
Sure.
Never did we have a chance of, folks, we have a plan for 5 years, and at the end of the fifth year, we say, yeah, that was the plan, right? So, how is this why you're running for Lieutenant Governor for California?
It's one of many reasons I'm running for Lieutenant Governor. But my decision to start to run for Lieutenant Governor is for 10 years, I had, we'll call it an itch to scratch. And I spoke to people in my neighborhoods and in my circle of friends and in my state and in my business and doing with colleagues and whatnot. And for 10 years, I looked at the state of California because I wanted to possibly run. But during this 10 years, I would have conversation with people, and they would say stuff to me like, "Well, Cole, you own a global firm. You shouldn't just run for city council, or you shouldn't just run for mayor of somewhere. You should be running for more bigger things because your business acumen and your skill set requires." You could do a lot better good for that. So the conversation always came back to, well, there's nobody good to choose from, and they need to do this, and they should really do that, and this is what they ought to fix, and they ought to do that. So I kept hearing the same thing, and in my ear, it sounded like people were complaining, and nobody was stepping up to do anything themselves. So I said, you know what? Enough's enough. I'm tired of hearing they need to do it. And I say, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
So number one, you need a bigger stage, right? And number two, over these years, you've heard much, you've seen enough. And then you decided
I'm going to run for Lieutenant Governor.
It's time, let's do it.
Yeah,
right?
I'm going to run for Lieutenant Governor because I have a very clear message. Instead of the partisan politics that divide us, we need to focus on what unites us. And what unites us is California, and putting California first and moving forward for California. See, I'm not talking about being about being right or left. I'm talking about being a Californian.
Yeah. We're sick for that already.
Yeah.
Right.
So
my audience is, I would have to let you understand from the very basic the position of a Lieutenant Governor.
Sure.
Right? And because a while ago, including myself, might not know that. A while ago, I was asking Mr. Harris why you're running for Lieutenant Governor instead of Governor itself. It looks that the talent and everything is there, well, sort of overqualified. And he explained the position and the job description of a Lieutenant Governor. Can you do that to my audience?
Sure.
Please?
So the Lieutenant Governor sits on many boards. He appoints people to also sit on other boards. So the Lieutenant Governor will be the President of the Senate, will also sit on the Ocean Protection Council, will also sit on the State Lands Commission, will also sit on the UC and the Cal State University Regents Board, the Board of Trustees for the Cal State University and the UC Regents Board. That's all of the UC system of schools and colleges. in the state, and then also I get to the UC Regents Board, as well as the Lieutenant Governor gets to appoint 5 people to the Oversight Committee for the CIRM. The CIRM is the California Institute of Regenerative Medicine. Now that as a whole has 30,000 people in it that it employs, and it brings roughly $285 million to the general fund. So it's a big deal. And then on top of that, there's a water transition task force that he serves on, and then some other boards and some other things that the governor may appoint the lieutenant governor on, possibly, but at this specific time, we wouldn't know what that is until there's a new governor in. Now, but the most important thing, the one board that the lieutenant governor is the chairman of, not just sitting on the board and being a part of the board, meaning the chairman, means the one board is the Economic Development Commission. And that is what I do every day in my business. So this is why my specific reason for running for lieutenant governor is because of the Economic Development Commission, and this is something that I know that I can pull my sleeves up.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. My dear folks, today with me is my good friend Cole Claris for Lieutenant Governor for California, and thank God has created who has created such a wonderful human being who has a knowledge, who has a background of allocating money, and it looks to me that the Lieutenant Governor position is the one that he must not play politics. He plays with number one, resources of manpower and resources of money, and the mechanism of all the different boards that work together for California. That's exactly why we suffer for the past 20 years, especially for the past 8 years. We're suffering a lot for we're patching. We never have a job done. And my dear audiences, we're only 5 days down the road. We have only 5 days left. Make sure that number one, you exercise your right of democracy to go out to vote. Number two, once you vote, make sure you vote for yourself. Never vote against yourself. Why you vote against yourself? Quite often than not, we vote against ourselves because we picked the wrong person.
Yeah.
Right? So now, in this case, I'm talking about Cole Harris, Harris, for Lieutenant Governor for your beautiful California. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Hello, dear friends, my lovely audience. I'm so glad that I have this opportunity to talk to this great man. He will be greater because when in 5 days he will take office of California, Lieutenant Governor of beautiful California, because he has ability, the wisdom to range California money. Okay, we may have good house, we may have poor house, we may have house with a median income though. Yet for the same income houses, we see different results. We see different kids walk out of house. Well, why? Because they have a smart mother who knows how to spend money where it is necessary. To California, if California is a house though, California is a family though, we need somebody be the mother, all right, in this case, Mr. Cole Harris, to be the Lieutenant Governor. That is the position he's running. So like I said just now, lucky we, the people, we are vested with the constitutional right to share this moment of excitement, to cast our vote. Oh yeah, we're the masters, we vote. And yet you choose not to vote.
Yeah.
So nobody is a master. And then once you vote though, you cast the vote wrongly to exactly go against yourself though, you are a stupid master yourself. All right. So in both cases, please be right. do right thing. California is a state, we have a slogan to be right, right? In this case, this is the only case you want to be right. So back to the show. Welcome, sir.
Sure, thank you.
On the economic development issue, I still want to stretch it.
Sure.
We know that we always cry for money. We always raise this bills or measure or preposition or so on and so forth, the water bills or infrastructure bills, so on and so forth. We never stopped asking for money. And yet we never see our road conditions, our water, so on and so forth. And they say it related to money. Related to money. So money is the issue. So now, with the overall picture, I want to bring my audiences some understanding about how much we have as a house.
Sure.
Spend our money.
Sure.
And then how much we need to do.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And versus that, we see gaps, we see extra, we still have some rainy day money to have. And do we have any other resource of income, right?
Right.
All right. So may I please?
Sure. So we got revenue streams. So your revenue stream is what we call the general fund. The revenue stream money comes into the general fund for the California state government. Okay. So that's $189 billion. So we'll call that the $189 billion cookie jar. Now, we have a budget for $183 billion. So that means the government has goods and services and things that they have to pay for, social programs and all these programs, and Medi-Cal, and the list goes on. People should know what that is. Now, so we have a $6 billion so-called surplus. Because if we collect 189 billion and we spend 183 billion, there's 6 billion left over. So that's what Jerry Brown has allocated to go into the rainy day fund.
The rainy day fund.
So they're saying we're putting the money away for a rainy day, and I'm saying, well, what are we doing for Californians today? So
good question.
So now, here it is. So you got $189 billion in the fund, and you got people putting their hands in the cookie jar, meaning programs, agencies need their funding because they need to fund their programs. So the governor's job is to put the budget together. Then the legislature and the Senate go back and forth on it, and then they get to a point where they approve the budget. So the budget gets approved finally. So after that. However, what we're not doing is, because we have 40 million people in our state now, close to 40 million. So because we have so many people, we have a lot more money, things that we have to spend on. So what economic development to me is making the revenue streams that are going into the general fund bigger. Making the actual pie, cookie jar, bigger.
So you're no longer talking about 189.
No, we do that by economic development across the board. So I'm in the process of writing a plan very similar to some other countries and other states have done to stimulate our industries, because the Economic Development Commission is in charge of keeping and sustaining businesses in our state and attracting new business to our state, increasing exports, and stimulating industries statewide. This is what the lieutenant governor is the economic development chair of. So this is what I plan to do.
In other words, you will try to increase the total income revenue from $189 billion into much more.
For instance, California's economy is the 5th largest economy in the world. What I'm saying is why can't we be the 4th? Why are we sitting on our hands saying, well, we're the 5th, we got great weather. We got the highest taxes in the nation, some of the highest tax rates in the nation. We're not very good, we're not business friendly. We got workers' comp issues.
The coastal line close to China?
The coast, we got the coast that's, that is a wonderful coast that we need to protect, and we need to keep that going. But what we're not doing is we're not making the pie bigger. So here's an example. An example is, I could tell you how many companies that have asked me, or states or countries have asked me personally to come buy a table or buy a plate to sit at a luncheon or sit at a trade mission or something to this nature.
Okay.
To
share your plan.
No, not to share a plan, to watch their presentation about their state or their country on what they're doing for economic development and why me, a California businessman, should take my business or invest there or do business in that state or that country or what. In California, we're simply not doing that. We're simply not doing that. And a plan, I have a price tag for the plan. California needs $900 billion. And we will get the $900 billion plan done.
$900 billion
Yes. Of money that will go into the economy in regards to infrastructure, economic development. That's what infrastructure projects is, economic development. That's jobs, that's things. You got local cities, you have counties, you have state. Up and down our entire state, we have neglected infrastructure.
Obviously, we're not getting
things.
this $900 billion. Where to?
We've neglected these infrastructure.
We should be able to do that.
We should be able to do it.
We should have done that already.
How we do it is we get the public-private partnerships via build, operate, transfer. So that's PPP, BOT. These are examples that are already in place in other portions of the world that are doing this, that are working, they're models.
What
that
do
are
the
working.
P's stand for?
Public-private partnership. There's a lot of existing public-private partnerships. Now,
I see.
what that means is we do not have to issue government bonds. We don't have to issue muni bonds, underperforming things. The private sector,
we don't have to
the private sector
take money
will
out of our own
build
pocket.
and operate the state asset. It will, whatever project that they're doing will always remain an asset of the state.
So from 189 to 900, you are still talking about a big.
$900 billion is the amount of money that we need to fix our state because we're in the hole. There's neglect of infrastructure.
I see.
There's neglect of stuff. Okay, the $189 billion is what we're collecting to the general fund.
What we're collecting from
the
general
general
fund.
fund. So if we are stimulating our economy by pouring $900 billion into it, we're creating jobs, we're creating opportunities, we're creating...
By doing what you are planning, how much can we see as an increase on this number?
Time will tell, but hopefully it gets up over to 300.
More than twice, more than double.
Hopefully. I mean, it's going to take a little time, but that's the general plan.
Take time.
You know, it's not, nothing happens overnight, but we all, as Californians, have to welcome this plan and understand this type of plan, because we have 40 million people here. We have systemic issues. We have issues that are having a lot of problem. Now, how do we get to this is ways that we have to all come together, meaning local city governments, local counties, and state officials, me running for lieutenant governor, being a state official, promoting this, pushing for this, lobbying for this, advocating for this is something that we need to be doing. We need to be making California more business friendly. And other nations, other states have adopted this type of mentality towards economic development, and they're prospering. We're not adopting this. What we do is we have $189 billion, and we try to figure out how much money we can take away from there to pay there.
Yeah, you're right.
Or
you're still
take this money.
stretching it,
Yes.
stretching it.
We're
to
not
cover
making the pie
more.
bigger. We're simply taking from Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah, yes.
right? We're
遮街漏走.
yeah, exactly.
Good, very
so,
good.
so this is the overall systemic idea.
All right, good. My dear audience, robbing Peter to pay Paul has been a policy, has been a tradition for California.
I don't know about robbing, but taking from one.
No robbing. I would stay to robbing because I've been with lots of local officials, like city mayors. They complain about being robbed all the time,
Yeah.
right? Anyway, it's been a tradition of California. Finally, when we see a chance, who can turn things around, and California, I would say that's almost in a dream state, right? Now, when a dream would almost come into reality, you don't want to miss the chance. Seize it, go ahead, make sure on that day you cast your vote to my dear friend Cole Harris, running for lieutenant governor, who will be able to arrange such a big plan. I never hesitated to take notes of the important numbers, and because I'm excited already.
Thank you.
I hope that you will be. And now when we come back, though, I'll start by telling you why I'm excited. So stay with us. Hello, dear friends. Welcome back to the show. As a matter of fact, it's not a show. It's like a classroom to me that I just go back in to see, California has some hope. The hope is right there. And it sounds almost as the first time when I hear California might have a chance to get a income revenue looking close to $300 billion versus what we see now, 189. Well, I'm quite surprised. I'm quite excited because all we talk about is the kind of brain you have, the kind of wisdom you have, and the owner of the kind of brain, the plan, the whole plan is my friend Cole Harris, ColeHarris. You will find your name on your ballot, and he is the candidate for California Lieutenant Governor. Make sure you, number one, recognize name, and make sure, number two, you cast your vote on. For what? For who? For yourself. Let's be a little selfish in this case, right? I don't know him, I don't like him, I don't whatsoever. No, for you yourself, you got to like him because he can turn things around. Yeah, that's all we're asking for, right? What else? Now, sir, welcome back to the show, right?
Sure.
To make a long story short, I need to stretch a little bit on this number thing, right?
Sure.
Now, for the expectation of more income revenue, though, we're talking about to have the PPP thing, to have the local efforts to keep the business here, and to have the officials to advocate all together, though, we shall have more business. Find a home here and develop here, and then with the tax revenue increase, we get this number, right? Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, now, and you also mentioned about partnership. How are we going to get involved? When I say we say California as a state getting involved into a partnership.
So the state of California, the Economic Development Commission that I'll be on of writing this economic plan for, will have these projects that are identified, and there will obviously be a bid process and an open bidding format and things of that nature. But it's still in the initial stages, and it's still about me getting the plan written, getting it up and going and out there. And this is one of the things to make California more business friendly. But there's also a lot of other things that are economic development, meaning there's existing stuff. So for instance, the $189 billion that we collected to the general fund, there's existing funds there that are sitting that aren't being spent on things that, because the state simply doesn't have the facilities and the resources for it. They have the money for it, but they don't have the facilities for it. Now, that's an economic development opportunity to the entrepreneurs, to fill this gap, fill this void for what we need to do. And that kind of goes into our next thing here, but I'll get to that in a minute. But our $189 billion revenue stream has volatile streams of their volatility in it. So that means they're not so secure. Meaning, I'm going to go on a limb here and go a little bit more, say a little bit more than roughly over. It could be more than this, but I'm just going to give a nice number because it's pretty close. 60% of this money, this $189 billion that California collects, comes from our personal income tax.
Personal income tax.
Okay, and then that number is up to 60-something%. Actually, this year it's close to 68, maybe more. Now, that number, out of that 68%, there are roughly 170,000 individuals who are billionaires or millionaires that make up the bulk of that. Meaning,
how big percentage they're making?
Their percentage. There's roughly close to 75% of that goes to 60% of this. So, for instance, if people keep moving out of the state, meaning billionaires, millionaires move away, our revenue, our reliance on this revenue goes away.
I see where you're from. Good. That's a good philosophy.
So if they move away, our reliance upon this number goes away. If we have a bad year in the stock market, they don't make money, we don't get money for the state. So we're reliant upon this type of revenue that goes to our
If they're gone, your
general
money's
fee.
gone.
Yes, California money's gone. So this year we have a bull market. There's an uptick in capital gains, hence the reason why our general fund dollars went up a little bit.
I see.
So there's the kind of, we need to get our arms around these unsteady revenue streams in which our state is reliant upon.
My lovely audience, today I feel that I'm very, very glad for this opportunity, and I would give this to my assistant a lot of credit. It's she who got hold of you, got me a chance of going back to class about California. As a media man, I worry a lot about California.
Sure.
And my wife says to me, "Come on, you're nothing about California. How come you talk about California on a day-to-day basis? I got a year full of use, and I'm tired of that." Well, this California is the thing. We have this ballot measures or whatever, prepositions, or we have water bills, we have age, we have so on and so forth. We keep doing that. We're patching our jobs on and on. And it is the money. Now, in terms of talking about money, though, we are talking about the fact our money can be arranged in a smarter way.
Sure.
Am I right?
We have a spending problem. We have spending issues. So we have government efficiency spending issues that we need to be getting our arms around.
It's not only a spending issue you're talking about.
Sure.
And it's still encouragement issue. And the kind of direction they're talking about.
It's a lot of it is interconnected. And it's simply not a matter of political ideology. This is the business of our state. Political ideology doesn't.
Yeah, you're right.
It's not business.
Yeah.
Collecting tax isn't business.
To make a long story
isn't
to make a long story
ideology.
short, to make a long story short, you don't eat politics,
Sure.
right? You eat the bread and milk. That's it. Okay.
Correct.
And by the way, now that we're on the subject, though, lots of people, for example, my friend Kurt Hackman once mentioned that he would promote the fact about having California contract or subcontract its business, its government business. For example, DMV, right, to local business owners, and to so as to form the partnership. Do you think that's a kind of revenue or kind of directions you will be thinking of?
I think that
once taking office?
I think that allowing the private sector to at least have the opportunity to bid to provide the same services that a state agency does in fact provide the state will help with government efficiency. What it won't do, just be realistic, be logical and pragmatic about it. What it's not going to do is those private companies will just have the opportunity to bid. In reality, they most likely will not ever actually win the bid to actually provide the services. But what that process will in fact do is will make the existing state agencies or the existing agency that is providing the service to the state shape up. Because if they don't, then they may lose their job out to
Might
someone
be a
else.
side push.
So there is some possible unintended consequence or unintended good things or intended things for it, because what your guy is saying, Bob is saying, is efficiency. The government efficiency needs to be better, and we have a tenure thing, meaning seniority rather than competence. So, and the largest elephant in the room in California is our debt. Our debt.
I see.
Is our pension reform,
Our
debt obligations,
pension obligations, liabilities.
even locally, not even just state, even local municipalities have these gigantic.
That exactly opens my second question about California pension carriage. We have too much burden on the shoulder of the pension liabilities. Would that relate to your numbers?
There are portions of it in the numbers. This $900 billion is more of a package for neglected infrastructure and our neglected roads and our things that are neglected. So $900 billion is for the neglect of it, is to actually, so what we could actually do.
With the 900 though, what a kind of length of time do we need?
And $900 billion does not include fixing pension debt. That's a completely separate, because pension debt currently, right now, there's a California rule. So there's a case right now in the California Supreme Court, the California Cal Fire versus CalPERS. And the Supreme Court has a real opportunity to make history. And the modification of pension fund benefits is what the California rule says. Basically, California rule is
modification.
You cannot modify. It is the way it is right now, and it can't be modified. Now, you had the pension funds took a real loss when the recession hit in 2008. They lost a lot of money. They're trying to get it back going again. They have target numbers. So the pension says, we're going to invest. And what they invest in, they have a rate of return that money's supposed to come back to them, correct? So the money the thought of it, they say, okay, well, we're expecting to get 8.9% return. I'm just throwing a number out there. Not the reality is probably different. So then what they actually realized, the actual money that does in fact come back, has been subsequently lower than what they project. So because of that, they're not as solvent, they're not as well funded as they should be. Now, if you're a state worker and you work for any union, you get money taken out of your check for your union dues, for your withholding tax, for your annual required contribution. That's what your annual required contribution is, what you pay every week or every month or whatever it is when you get your check that goes towards the pension, your pension when you retire, your retirement pension. California has an obligation, the pension funds, your employer has the obligation to match the annual required contribution that you as an individual make when you work every day. The problem is, for 15 years in California, they have not paid those annual required contributions.
It's accumulation.
So what that means is, that's called equal unfunded liability. So now the state has this unfunded liability because they didn't pay for it for 15 years. Hence the reason there's debt service payments and pension debt. So all of these, the numbers are, in a nutshell, all in all, when the dust all settles, close to 1.3, 1.2, 1.5, depending on who you're talking to, but we're over the $1 trillion mark. So the biggest issue that we're facing in California is when we have more debt than our GDP is where we're headed. We have $2.5 trillion in our GDP. We have $1.6 trillion in debt, and it's constant, and it's continually growing every day. So this is another elephant in the room.
Yes. And I started to see that once taking office, you really have a big job to do, or bigger job to do than the numbers you already laid. And I believe that you have some kind of reservation to yourself. You're not letting out all the numbers that you have so far. But for me to start to see the light though, see the twilight though, I feel hope there.
Sure.
To my audience, I want to share my hope with you. I want to share where my hope are. And in doing business, I would say all states, I would say they follow almost the same rule. And money doesn't grow on trees, doesn't fall from the sky. Money has to be worked out. And yet, different ways of managing money will bring you a totally different result. I'm talking about California right now is at a critical moment to change hands, right? And the one who will be the one that you need, that has the smart thinking, has the bigger plan, has the smarter plan to arrange California money, is my friend Mr. Cole Harris for Lieutenant Governor. I really wish there are 5 or 6 or 7 segments in the show, though. I have to wrap this segment up.
Sure.
And when we come back, we have to leave money a little bit, and we have to pick up another subject. So stay with us, please. Hello, my dear folks, my lovely audiences, and my dear fellow Angelinos or San Franciscans or whoever, fellow Californians, welcome back to the show talking about California. Right now we're talking about California has a twilight there to turn around our economy, turn around our business development, to show up, like if I quote from him, my friend Cole Harris, Lieutenant Governor of California, future Lieutenant Governor. I can't wait. I advance right away that we are the 5th of the world, right? How about the 4th? If we really want to do that, now it is the possibility is in your hand, because we have somebody ready to turn things around in California. That's Mr. Harris for Lieutenant Governor. Sir, I have really a long list to check with you.
Sure.
Thank you for your numbers, and I'll put them together for my audience who
need to fact check them, so make sure keep me honest on
and
it.
I'm not doing the quote-unquote.
I rounded some of the stuff.
I'm not
we'll
doing
see.
the quote-unquote thing.
Yeah.
I'll do with an explanation, like say approximately something like that.
Yeah, it's ballpark. It's real close though.
And next thing I really want to check with you about your take. It is a little political position, whatever, economy combined, right? And social and ethnic combined. And what's your take with the homelessness versus public safety?
Well, I think they're interconnected. I think that homelessness is a very, very complex issue. Okay, and there's a lot of parts to it. So if we're existing programs, there are existing programs in place, and there's existing facilities, and there's things that are existing that aren't working, and there's also things that there's current laws in place that there's a lot of gray area on how they're interpreted on somebody's civil liberties, meaning that if somebody is a homeless person and they're vulnerable or they're mentally ill or there's some type of problem, if you see with your own eyes or a police officer sees with their own eyes that they are a problem to themselves or to others, meaning a problem, meaning they're going to do harm. They're meaning they're harmful, meaning they're punching themselves or they're punching somebody else or they're doing something physical harm. But if they're standing there, not bothering anybody, standing on the street, talking to themselves, screaming, whatever, there's a gray area and they can refuse help. So this is a law here that it's a very gray area on this. So I believe we need to be helping those who can't help themselves, people that are most vulnerable, because the entire thing about homelessness is what? Getting people help to get back to be self-reliant. Right? So I'll say it again.
Right, okay.
Self-reliance. Getting whatever it is so they can be back self-reliant. Whether they're very vulnerable, whether they're addicted to something, whether they're truly, whether they're housing insecure. Housing insecure means that they're one or two paychecks away from actually being homeless, or they just were recently homeless, and they're not on drugs, they're not on that. So there are vulnerable. There are
cases
people.
when they happen to be between jobs.
Sure.
For temporarily.
Correct. So, however, there's different categories of homeless people, and we need to be helping those who can't help themselves, people that are living with disabilities, people that are the most vulnerable. Those are the people we need to help via transitional housing, via programs, integrated care for them. There are models in other parts of the world, in other parts of our United States, that are actually working, that collectively as a whole, the entire community has done to try to embrace it. There are current funds for mental health services that are in our counties. Prop 63 was the quote-unquote millionaire tax that has $2.5 billion currently sitting in bank accounts up and down our state. Goes back to exactly what I said earlier. This is a economic development opportunity for those in the private sector that we need these goods and services. Also, on top of this, homelessness, the people that are homeless currently now are not wanting to go to some of these places because, number one, there's no central oversight of some of these facilities. The facilities are ran down. There's bed bugs. There's rats. It's basically the homeless person is saying, I would much rather be on the street in a tent because it's actually cleaner than some of these facilities. So people can go do their research. There's articles out there. There's things that people have done this, and I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus. But the point is, we can fix it. Number one, we need to reclaim our sidewalks because this is a public health and public safety concern. The problem with all of this is that everyone wants to agree that homelessness is a problem, but you have a NIMBY attitude. And the NIMBY is an acronym for not in my backyard. Okay? So, you agree homelessness is a problem. Now, if they were going to open up, if they, meaning an entrepreneur, wanted, or a local city, wanted to open up a mental health facility in your local area, you would want them to actually have a town hall meeting, have a conversation about, is this a proper place for us to put this in our community? Rather than just say, here's where we're going to put it, sorry, this is where we're putting it, and you just have to deal with it. There are underutilized buildings up and down our state, all over. Commercial buildings that are underutilized. They're large, big buildings.
Those can be turned into good use.
However, the most essential portion of it is that the local municipalities have the right to at least say yes or no for these specific locations, because we don't want to alienate people and we don't want things to be in people's backyards. We want to help people. We want to get this done. People need the service. There are existing buildings there. We don't need to go through so much of CEQA. There are things that we can do for this. There are solutions there. Our solutions are not, they should not be.
Yes, I agree.
Our
totally
solutions
agree.
should not be putting them in tents in a park. That's not our solutions. There are existing buildings that are built. We do not have to go through CEQA.
Exactly.
It's an interior build out. There's sewer. There's stuff there. We don't have to have people defecating on the sidewalk. We do not have to have that. We do not have to have people using the restroom on the sidewalk. There are facilities for this. There's a real concerted effort that needs to go on. Here is the homelessness problem that many people are not aware of, which leads me to the sanctuary state. California has a sanctuary state law, okay?
Yes.
The unintended consequence of our sanctuary state law is this. People who are vulnerable and homeless from other parts of our states, meaning our country. I'm not talking about people from Mexico.
You're talking about inside the United States.
Inside the United States are coming to California because of the word sanctuary. So, before the sanctuary city law was passed, there was 100,000 homeless in California. Today, there's 200,000.
All right, okay.
So we have 100% uptick.
And
of,
the LA
of homelessness.
LA as a county only.
So this is why you're seeing it. So this is why people are seeing it.
You have 46,000 in 2016. Now you're talking about 2018. You have 58. That's
so you're seeing this uptick.
Increase,
It's not because people just got homeless all of a sudden. They're coming from other parts of our.
It is in most of the cases are a money issue, but it's not a total money issue. I hear lots of people say, for example, in Orange County, they're talking about their hotel programs. They give coupons to hotel rooms or motel rooms.
It's still a Band-Aid. You still put a Band-Aid on it, and then you don't.
I'm talking about patchwork in my word, patchwork.
Sure.
So to get to the point, to get to the done though, you really believe.
So the solutions. You want to talk about solutions?
Yeah, solutions,
I have
please.
solutions in my mind about it.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah,
so
good.
solutions are.
Thank you, sir.
Solutions are adopting what other municipalities have done to combat it. Michigan, the state of Michigan, has a very good, robust mental health system that they're doing on integrated care. They have a tier approach towards it. San Antonio, the city of San Antonio, has a tier system. They have a place called the Haven of Hope, which is a 22-acre campus. It's not a hospital. It's not a learning facility. They call it a campus to give people help. So people are allowed to come in. They want the help. They truly want the help. They have a tiered system. Now, that tiered system may not be perfect, but what we in California should be doing is adopting some of these and taking the best parts of these programs and making them bigger, faster, and stronger. And that's what I plan to do when I become lieutenant governor.
Sounds a very beautiful plan. You don't have to build up a house, which they are building now a lot, right? and you don't want to get help from the hotel programs.
We can no longer allow our jails to serve as a mental health facilities.
Yes, that's what they're doing. Yeah, they put them there. Yeah, and then back years ago, they're talking about from moving them from downtown to Burbank, from Burbank to Van Nuys, something like that.
I don't like to refer to the homeless as like a thorn in our side. They are actual individuals. They're Californians. They're people that have real systemic problems, and it tears my heart out to see that. And I would want to implement programs that actually fix the problem rather than put a Band-Aid on it. Here's another idea, just right off the top of my head. We got $2.5 billion sitting in funds somewhere, right? Why don't we allocate some state land? The state has ample amount of land.
Yeah.
Let's allocate some state land. Let's take some of the money out of the $2.5 billion fund that's there, that's been since 2004. Let's take $300 million of that, and let's build a centralized large facility, a campus, if you will, with a mental health hospital with a lot of beds that we can get the most vulnerable people off the street. We can get people jobs. Let's use the $300 million and build a centralized facility rather than sending these people with homelessness that are homeless, that have problems, to our jails. Instead, let's send them to get help at the mental health facility.
Beautiful, beautiful. This is a really beautiful place.
And have controls inside.
That's really beautiful.
And have controls inside the building where everything is recorded, everything's there, so there's no misconduct, so there's no disorderlies with bad behavior. People start to talk to me about. Talk to me about California closed all its mental health facilities down and all their large hospitals and all their psychiatric stuff down.
All right.
We closed it down because his hand was forced.
I respect especially you said what you're saying, that it tears my heart to see that happen.
Sure.
And that's why I say it's a moral issue too, right?
Yeah.
And some people say, yesterday I heard a radio comment talking about homelessness, and judging by the tone of the newsman, of the speakers, and something is totally wrong with the culture. They are the way they mention them as if they are not human.
Sure.
Yeah, they're like
they're an animal or something,
like
they're livestock. Like we should herd them up and put them over here, and that's completely wrong. They're human beings who have a problem that need some help.
Or whatsoever, those all kinds of words. With that in mind, though, I would like to call off the show, even though we're over time. I really want to say that this is about the best show that I have done myself for this entire campaign season, and truly for that, I truly believe that I did a good job. I tried everything, and I can to make sure my friend Harris gets elected, gets handpicked by our smart voters, audiences, by our constituents who care about California and who knows how to care about California. And to my suggestion, my advice is, once again, walk out to vote and cast your vote to him, please. And do you have 30 seconds to wrap up a message, please?
Sure. I was going to say that the majority of reviewers are of Asian descent, right? So a lot of Asian voters in California tend to not vote. So my message to you is that in order for your voice to be heard, you need to get out and vote. You need to get out there, vote. Either if you've already registered or if you haven't registered, you can still get out there and do it. There are mobile voting places you can do. There are a lot of things that are going on and making it easier for people to vote this year. Now, June 5th, 2018, I believe in order for your voice to be heard, you need to get out there and actually vote, because I like to say that if you don't vote, then you can't complain, and you can't say they're bad or that's wrong or whatever, because you actually didn't vote. So my personal opinion is really truly get out there and vote, because it does affect you, and every vote does in fact count.
Sure.
And that's the
Sure.
basis of being of utilizing your citizenship.
And thank you for running.
Yes,
for
thank you.
that, and we wish you good luck. And my audiences, that wraps up the show. And the last word to say again, important things we say 3 times, right? Vote, vote, vote.
Yes, thank you.